Hello, Wankers. It's the first time that I actually realized that it is my show and not these two guys. What are they called? Matt and Brian from Red, Pink, whatever flag they are, you know. So, but I still need them. I love them.
You hear that?
Yeah.
He loves us.
He needs us.
Correct.
So everyone in the comments that say, I came here for Guenther, not these other two schmucks, screw you!
Yeah, that's right. You know, you're a bunch of Vankers. That's what it is. And we're a bunch of rock stars and Vankers
Movie
combined.
stars. We're here with
Movie stars.
Bonafide movie stars. Guenther, let's just talk about the most important thing that happened in Silverstone. You were in the F1 trailer.
Yeah, but I don't think that was the most important thing. That was a thing, not important, you know.
No.
If you heard the eruption of the crowd when you, it was like Brad Pitt, woo, Javier Bardem, woo,
Brad Pitt who? Or Brad Pitt who it was, you know.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah,
That's
exactly.
right.
Guenther Steiner, woo! Did you know you were going to be in the trailer, Guenther?
They showed us a trailer, which was, I don't know if it was the same or not. I don't remember it last year at some stage. And my scene was the same in there, but I didn't know if they leave it in or not. They just showed it, I think last year in Austin. They showed a little trailer to all the team principals and some people in the at FOM and in the FIA.
How did that make you feel that you made the cut?
Indifferent.
Indifferent. You're saying this to two guys in Hollywood that would kill to be part of a Brad Pitt movie. Indifferent?
Yeah, but you're a cameo. You're not part of it. You're a cameo. You know, obviously, it's nice to be in there because otherwise Kosinski takes me out, Joe takes me out. But no, it's nice to be in there, but it doesn't, you know, I didn't play a role. I'm just a cameo. You guys know that how it works.
Of course, but there's lots of cameos that are featured in this thing. You know, there's lots of people in the paddock that were probably featured and have little cameos, and they said, we got to make this trailer pop. And how do we make this trailer pop? By having Guenther pop his head out of the, you know, the trackside area. That's how we need to make it pop.
Guenther, yeah, they could have had Lewis cameo. In the trailer, they could have had Toto cameo, Christian cameo, Max cameo. They chose a close up on you. How does that make you feel?
If you continue to tell me, I go off this podcast because I feel so great, you know, about it, so proud.
Well,
Yeah.
we were discussing on our pod, which is obviously the lesser of the two pods that are happening here. This is a different pod. This is Vanka Hours. We also do Red Flags. This is the superior podcast. Everybody knows it. But we were talking on our inferior podcast about how you really could be like a great actor. You have such a captivating face and presence that, you know, we see you as like a henchman for a crime boss, or, you know, the right hand man, someone that they say, oh, I'll just have, and they can keep your same name, that I'll just have Guenther take care of it, and then you crack your knuckles and everyone shakes in fear.
Off we go.
You don't think you could play like a Luca Brasi, Guenther?
Sure,
Yeah.
Matt. Anything, you know, anything.
You said that on our last episode that Pulp Fiction's your favorite movie, and I feel like you would fit very well into a Pulp Fiction world.
You think so? I mean, yeah, but I'm getting too old for this stuff, you know. Or the senior. We could make a senior Pulp Fiction. I mean, you have connections to Tarantino. You can speak with him. And Matt, you can write it.
Right. No. Tarantino loves revitalizing people. You know, just like you revitalized Nico Hulkenberg. You know, it's the same thing. And
That's right.
I guess we could get into the race. I mean, the biggest story the second biggest story after you being on having a cameo in the F1 movie is obviously where Nico Hulkenberg finished.
Yeah, I got that. Yeah, I don't want to speak about me anymore. You know, let's speak about the other people. You know.
Yeah. Well, okay. This is obviously jokes. Obviously, amazing Silverstone GP, thrilling. Lots of things going on. Guenther, where do you want to start? Where should we start this episode?
I think we should start with Lewis winning. You know, it's pretty cool. 9 times in one Grand Prix. It's a record. 9 times at home. Pretty cool. And it was a good Grand Prix. And how many winners this year? How many different manufacturers winners? I mean, there's a lot to be talked about it, which was great. And it just makes it so unpredictable now what is going to happen in the Grand Prix. And I told everyone out of the 4, which started in the first 4 positions, Lewis is the least of my favorites. And guess what? I got it wrong, So I don't feel great about that.
Why was he the least of your favorites?
Yeah.
I don't know, because my reasoning is because he was the guy of the 4 which won last, because George won in Austria, Max won this year, Lando won this year. So I just thought maybe Lewis cannot, will not get it done. I don't know. I don't want to be negative, but for me, you have to have one least favorite, and he was it for me, but he proved me wrong. He did a fantastic race. And obviously George wasn't there because he retired with the problems. I think it was a cooling system issue. So, but he still won it. Nobody gave it to him for free.
Did you find yourself getting swept up in the emotions of it, or that that's not your thing?
Exactly. I mean, Matt, you know me well enough now that emotional things are not my thing.
So when Lewis was crying, he hasn't won in 2 years.
I didn't
he's
cry.
Leaving.
No. I didn't cry.
So it's like, what do you even get out of this? If that's like, what are you even in this for? You mortgaged your whole life to be in this sport, and then if Lewis winning after 2.5 years, being in the trenches, struggling, crying, holding his father, that does nothing for you.
No.
What does it for you?
I'm happy for him. I'm happy for him.
What's the most emotional you've ever been, like after a race, watching a race?
I think I was pretty emotional when Kevin had pole position in Brazil. Yes. That was something. A pole position F1 is something, That was pretty emotional. But I didn't. By the way, I didn't cry.
I see.
I didn't cry.
When do you cry? Do you ever cry?
Yeah, before I go into the podcast with you guys, I need to get myself together. I need my wife to say, "Come on, you can do it, man. You can do it."
Very well done. Okay, so but okay, you doubted Lewis. It seemed like we also kind of weren't expecting Lewis, but it seemed like, especially in a race like this with the changing conditions, and there was a degree of the driver making the call that Lewis's wisdom, that how long he's been in the sport, made the difference. That do you attribute that to his win? What did Lewis do right that the others did wrong?
I think a lot. It's a combination. Obviously, the experience of him in these conditions, and it's you can get them right, you can get them wrong in these conditions. The choices you make, but for sure, in the end, he took it in his hand and said, "This is what I want to do," which gives the people on pit wall confidence. Let's do it. A few other things with a few other drivers, they tried to do it and they got it wrong, But in these conditions, the driver is still the most important one to make the decision when to change tires, in my opinion, because he's out there. Because the track is so different in different sectors, you have no idea.
So here's the interesting thing. So when you look at Ferrari pulling in Leclerc early, leaving Piastri out, like all the different little errors that we saw that knocked the different players out. Leclerc wasn't a player, but that was an early mistake, right? Pulling him out for early for inters. We saw the leaving Piastri out late, and then the devastating leaving Lando out late. This was the worst one for me was they left Lando out one lap later, and you would think if you leave a guy out a lap later, you would at least get the tires right, because you see what everybody else is going on. Oscar went on the mediums. Oscar was like, the medium is the best. So the institutional knowledge on one side of the garage thought mediums were the best, and on the other side of the garage they think soft is the best. It was all very confusing, and I guess so. Are you just blaming the drivers? Because is that how you explain why Carlos Sainz's side of the garage got it right and Leclerc's side of the garage got it wrong, and in the instance of the Piastri Norris second stop, one got it right, one got it wrong?
It was such a difficult race. Let's go to the dry tires in the last stint. And I don't remember now on top of my head who picked what, but they all picked different tires. Everybody thought something different. Nobody really knew what they were doing. And that happens. You don't know what the tire will be doing, what type of tire will be doing in the circumstance it has to run. because they didn't test them in that conditions, and you just go by your gut feeling. And the gut feeling, obviously, you've got 3 choices. 2 choices will be wrong, and now we know better. So I was quite amazed that some people put the hard tire on, which I thought is completely wrong, but it showed the tire was pretty good,
Right.
It is a weird thing. Afterwards, we all know better, and especially you, because afterwards you're Mr. Hindsight, I figured that one out by now. So,
Yes.
but it's not a criticism, it's a compliment, So,
That's how I took it.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, you better. But
Yeah.
no, but it's also the biggest thing. What for me, was when the McLarens left the drivers out, because it was clear it needs to be changing. Obviously
Right.
the decision to take Charles in early was a little bit. Wow, that's a little bit early, because you got that crossover time, and we were nowhere near it. And I think they just rolled the dice at that stage. That's my opinion. Saying, hey, I'm stuck here in, what was he, 7, 6, 7, 8, somewhere around there.
But he had clawed his way right back. He was right behind Sainz. He had an amazing start. He was right there.
Yeah, but to get to the podium, I think without a magic, he couldn't have done it. He was
Right.
that's where he could get. You'd have to take all this and you say, oh, I gamble here, and I don't know. I saw him, but I didn't ask him. I saw him Sunday night in the airport, but I didn't ask him. He wasn't, would have been
Wasn't
the wrong
the right
question.
time. Yeah.
Exactly. Well, yeah, it
McLaren,
was
Charles,
completely-
what the hell? What the hell are you thinking there?
Yeah, but what you are thinking, because Matt will ask me, give me the answer, give me the answer, man,
Yeah.
So no, it wasn't the right time. So I think that it was just the race circumstances were so unpredictable that some people got it right, and obviously Lewis got it completely right and won the race.
It seems like you were saying that Ferrari was taking a gamble. The only way that they're going to get to a podium is if they do something kind of crazy on strategy. But at the start of this year, it looked like Ferrari was the only one that even had a sniff of Max Verstappen. And it seems it seems to be, we have limited knowledge. You have deeper knowledge than us. It seems to be that there's a history of Ferrari starting off a year well, and then just the stock just goes down as the year goes on, and other teams find a way and they progress through the season, and we're starting to maybe see some of that now. Like, what the hell is going on at Ferrari? Matt had them finishing second, and it seems like now they might finish fourth because Mercedes has made this resurgence.
Yeah, I mean, after Monte Carlo, I thought they got it. They got it now to be out there every weekend to challenge Red Bull. And the opposite happened. They are moving away from it, They are moving away. The last upgrade they brought, actually, it doesn't work, The right height where they get the downforce, it just it starts to bounce the car, It starts to porpoise, and they went back to the other one. So, but what I would say this year, it's very. What I'm surprised, these upgrades, like Mercedes comes with an upgrade and it works. They are good, and then they go to the next racetrack and it doesn't work anymore. So every racetrack for me is it's not like this consistency that one team, you made an upgrade and it works everywhere. It's not happening. It is so track specific this year, in my opinion, that for the next race, I have no idea who will be the biggest challenger of Red Bull or beating Red Bull, because in Silverstone, 2 teams were beating Red Bull by speed, Mercedes and McLaren. Yeah, I know that Max finished second, but
I guess traditionally Mercedes has not been good at like fast corner tracks. That's sort of been the tradition. So the fact that they did so well in Silverstone, does that lead you to believe that they're actually back?
yes, and I think they understood where they need to work to. But hopefully we are not disappointed like we were from Ferrari, because we thought Ferrari's back. All 3 I speak for 2 of us, because you said Matt was convinced that he was there. I think that's what I'm thinking, because the Mercedes was good. I mean, P1, P2.
Okay, so I guess I've asked you before, like, why are some teams different in off-season develop? Like, why is Ferrari so good at developing off-season and not as good in season? And you said, if I knew that, I'd be, have Lawrence Stroll type money. But I guess the question is, what is the difference? Can you tell me the difference between, in terms of workflow, developing in season and off-season?
No, I think they're all doing very much similar. Some teams start maybe a month earlier to stop for the next season, but it's all within a month. Nobody starts in May or in April for the next season, but nobody starts in October. So I think it's just like you can get it right or you can get it wrong. I think it's the understanding of this ground effect cars, which is still the key to it. What do I need to develop? What does work? If you think it works and you make it work in the wind tunnel, nobody has got the guarantee that it works on the racetrack. So I think they're still everybody's dealing with that one.
I just don't understand why, your wind tunnel works in the off season and then all of a sudden you're putting parts in the wind tunnel and then it correlates well in Bahrain, and then all of a sudden you're putting parts in there and then it doesn't correlate. I just don't get it. Why won't you explain it to me?
I think it's correlating, but it's like
maybe not as much as the other teams.
Yeah, but it's just like the Ferrari. If you maybe can run it 5 millimeter lower, the car would be very fast, but you cannot simulate the purposing in the wind tunnel.
Right.
It doesn't go there. I mean, you remember when this ground effect cars came out. I remember it like it was yesterday. I mean, we went to Barcelona, we tested. Mazepin goes down the straight, and I watch it, and this thing is just jumping, and he comes on the radio and said, if I go over 250, I cannot drive this car anymore. And I was like, what the word then have we done here? And it's like, oh, we got this completely wrong. And then you find out that 10 out of 10 teams had the same problem. Think about it. 10 F1 teams, nobody understood that this car will have this purposing. And I think it's still, nobody understood it 100%. And that for Ferrari had a bug. Ferrari had a bug. They were not planning to have a bug. It's not something nice to have.
What was the key to limiting the porpoising? Because I know that Nui had like his eye on suspension. Is suspension really the key? Like how did some teams successfully mitigate porpoising? How did some teams not? What did Haas do? How did you figure that out?
By taking off some air when you go very low. Because when you go very low, you stole the air going through and the car comes back up and then sucks down again, and then you create this effect. So you just need to manage the airflow underneath the car properly. And if you go too low, you cannot manage it anymore.
So you put like less downforce, like you put like make the bottom of the car like less of a suction. You actually have to like take suction out.
You try to get as much suction, but not going completely down that you lose the flow. That is a combination. You can do it, with stopping the suspension going down, for example. But it's not as easy as talking here. These cars, they are very sophisticated, because otherwise Matt attacks me again and say, why you don't figure it out? Because it isn't easy, Chief Engineer Matt.
Okay, wait. So it seems like Mercedes is maybe back. Maybe back. We don't know. Sometime, but there's something to me that seems very scary about Mercedes being back in a way where, like, when Ferrari starts out the season well, I'm kind of a seasoned enough person to say, oh, they'll find a way to drop this ball. However, it seems like in the history of Mercedes that when they figure it out, then they just run with it, and then they're 100 yards ahead of you, and all of a sudden you're like, how the hell did we get here? Are you thinking that like this Mercedes, is this more intimidating to you than maybe like McLaren figuring it out?
No, at the moment, first of all, it's not intimidating. It's just like, I think they can, but I don't think that they will go into a domination. I don't think we have to worry about that, because the battle between the four teams is so close that track dependent. I think we will see again a very mixed up field there.
Okay, just another quick technical question. It seemed like that I didn't understand, and maybe you can help our listeners. Well, I did understand. I'm pretending I don't. Maybe you can help our listeners.
You're the chief engineer. Yeah, you're the chief engineer. Yeah.
Explain to our layman listeners why it seemed like Mercedes had the pace in the dry, then McLaren had the pace on the slicks in the wet, and then, like, it just seemed like different cars were faster in different conditions. And, people were saying on the commentary, oh, well, McLaren was set up for the wet. How does one set up for wet conditions?
For wet condition, you normally put more downforce on, you put maximum on, but I don't know what they run. But in the wet condition is also, how how you can keep if you have got the right tires in wet condition, how you keep your tires, the temperature up and all that one, it's very fine details, and the driver has got a big influence when you run in these difficult conditions, to keep everything going. But you can set up a car in the wet. You normally set it up softer that it rolls, that you feel the car better. And you have the more downforce. But obviously then if you put more downforce, you get more drag as well. And then you're slow on the straight. And then people overtake you when it gets really dry.
So that's maybe why the McLarens didn't qualify as well. But when it started raining, they were like flying.
Could be that their setup was closer to a wet setup.
So do you think that the determining factor going forward might continue to is setup going to be a big factor? I mean, I know that like maybe certain tracks will benefit certain teams more than others, but it also feels like setup is a huge part of this. Like, how are you putting your car together for this track, and whichever team maybe nails that is the team that might have the edge in terms of pace?
You've got that all the time. I mean, to find the right balance on the car is depending on the setup, and they always try to do the best they can with the setup. If you go speak about aero setup, specific to the racetrack, everybody tries to find where they can go fastest with what they've got as aero spec in their car. So I think that's pretty defined. I mean, to find a good setup, a good balance of the car, that normally the driver gives you that, but it's so close together. Think about it. There is 4 manufacturers now in 1 or 2 tenths of a second. I mean, every little bit counts here.
We're talking about fine margins here.
Yeah.
And it seems like, sliding doors, the road not taken, like, butterfly effect, name whatever the hell saying you want to name. It's just a butterfly flaps its wings and Lando Norris doesn't fucking win another race, right? It just seems like
the butterfly's flapping a lot.
The butterfly's been flapping
that butterfly
a lot.
is
he will win another race, don't worry.
Okay, but it's just like, at what point does it become like Lando's unlucky, and people, and what point does this become a trend, and McLaren is just, because it seems like, again, they made a few unfortunate choices and it just slipped through their grasp. At what point does it go from unlucky to, because it seems like Red Bull makes the right choices more often than not. And Lewis, especially like when he had an opportunity to win, he chose right. He made all the right choices, and he was able to figure it out when he was in an opportunity to win.
Winning is also something you need to learn. Not to make mistakes, not to make slip-offs. And Red Bull won so much, so they know exactly how to win. And I always say, to win consistently, that will take time, because you have to learn that one as well. It's not like, obviously, if you have got a complete dominating car, you go and win, and it's not an issue. But if it is close, a guy like Max, to beat him is very difficult, for example. A guy like Lewis, he won so much because when they are in the position, they know how exactly to do it. While I think Lando is still getting used to winning, and McLaren, for a long time, hasn't won until I think they won a race last year and won this year, so they still need to get that last little bit right. It's always difficult to win consistently. It's not easy. It's a craft you need to learn.
So for Lando fans out there, should Lando fans just give up on him?
No. He will learn it, but learning takes time, Experience is not sweet to make. You just need to be patient.
Really, because I seem to remember a Lewis Hamilton just almost beating Alonso on countback and nearly winning the drivers' championship in his first year. I seem to remember that happening. Or is he just an outlier?
Which car was he in then?
McLaren.
And Alonso in the Renault. Oh.
No, they were both in McLaren.
Exactly, both in the McLaren. They had the same car, So,
right,
so
but I'm saying is Lewis didn't take any time to learn.
But this was the same team. Lando is not in the same team as Max or Lewis in the moment. The team needs to learn as well. It's not only the driver, chief engineer.
Do you think that?
We got a new name for him, chief engineer.
Okay. I'll take chief engineer, but you got to accept one of my nicknames. I got a new one for you. Ready?
Always born ready. You know that.
G Money.
I have no money, G no money.
Gene takes all my money.
Gene, no money.
Gene takes all my money.
Do you think, like, when you, because now we're getting into these fine margins, as we were saying, now it's like personnel dependent. It feels like this is about like who is making the decisions, and obviously the most important one, arguably at a time like this, it's the driver. When you look at, this is where their salt is. This is where it's all made. And Lewis, we were talking about his rookie season, his career that he's had, this win. Let's just go back to him a little bit. Like, do you see Lewis Hamilton as being an outlier type of driver? Like, who do you see as being those really special, like they really have something different? We talked about how Lando maybe has to learn that. I think personally that Lewis came out of the box in a way that Lando did. Like, Lewis was on that level at an earlier time than Lando. What are your thoughts on that?
It didn't take a long time for Lando. I need to think a little bit back now with Lando, but it's also the circumstances here in. Right place, right time. It's all timing and the place issue in F1. If you get in when you're young and you're good, in the right car, all of a sudden, you learn everything quicker. Lando got into the McLaren when the McLaren wasn't right, And he went through this time. Yeah, he learned to drive, but he was not in the position to show what he can really do because he didn't have the machine at the time. Lewis went into the right car, a little bit like Max. He went straight into a good car, and he was first in the Racing Bull in the RB car at the time. Yeah. What was it called? Whatever it was called.
Toro Rosso.
Toro Rosso, yeah. But he was pretty quick to learn. So, obviously he has to learn it. He was quite disappointed with himself in Austria that he didn't win.
Speaking of Lewis, saw Lewis, very happy that he won, very emotional. But we saw Toto grinning like a Cheshire cat. Toto was very happy. Part of me thought, maybe Toto will be upset that, his guy didn't win, his future driver didn't win, but he seemed very happy. And part of me thinks, that he's feeling like maybe Lewis is regretting his decision, that maybe he's getting the upper hand in the narrative because look where Ferrari is headed. You think Lewis is regretting his decision? And do you think Toto is feeling like some schadenfreude about, Lewis's decision?
What did Toto say? He made a comment. I think it was on the radio. I don't remember.
He said, "I told you, we'll persevere," which kind of seemed seems a vibe of like, "I told you, Lewis. I told you."
We will persevere. Yeah, it could be the tease a little bit. But obviously, I don't think Toto was jumping out of joy when Lewis told him he's not going to stay on there, right. Because there was a clear plan in place for them. But I think they worked long time together enough that they respect each other very well. But I interviewed Toto after the race for Canal Plus, and he was happy as shit. He was really, yeah. He was like, and it was good for him, because they worked hard and he had to eat a lot of humble pie, the last years. So in the end, it's good for him. But I don't think he makes a difference for him who wins, which of the drivers, as long as Mercedes wins.
You don't think you don't think he prefers George at this point?
No. I don't think I don't think he does because Lewis was very good to Mercedes. He won them eight constructor championships. You cannot be upset with the guy if he leaves at some stage.
Have you noticed? Has there been a notable change in Toto as he's eaten this humble pie, as you say, over these last couple of years?
Oh, it's easier to take the mickey out of him, So, yeah.
What do you tell him?
But now he has got the back in the hand, He's back on top, Yeah, now it's getting harder again. Yeah, it's hard to give a shit now again. Yeah.
What have you been telling Toto? So you haven't exactly been super supportive during these times. What sort of words have you been sharing with him as he's been struggling?
No, I don't have Schadenfreude. I explained that one to you once. Right. So I've made some jokes, but I just asked him on Sunday if he told, because in Austria he told George that he can win that, obviously. 2 laps to go, 2 seconds of advantage. He really didn't know that he can win, by the way. So right. I said, did you tell Lewis that he can win it as well, 2 laps to go?
Yeah.
So
right.
he didn't find it really funny, to be honest.
I see. So let's think about this season. Let's talk like this season going forward. Because now all of a sudden, it seemed like if there was a period there where it was like McLaren and Red Bull, and they were the only two players. Ferrari was dropping off, but now all of a sudden, Mercedes has entered the chat. It seems like the Ferraris that they might start to find form again when we get back to the street tracks in the Bakus and the Singapores and the Vegases of the world. So there all of a sudden might be really 4 teams at the top. Is this just like playing actually right into Red Bull's hands? Because when it was just the 2 of them, it's like, oh shit, I have to actually watch out for McLaren. They can actually make up points every single race. But now with everyone fighting and clamoring, maybe is it a situation where Max, actually cruises off into the distance because the rest of the teams have caught up?
No, I don't think so. As you said, it's difficult to predict who is going to be strong where in the moment, but any of the 4 can win. I think for Red Bull, the biggest worry now is that they are scoring points with 1 car and not with 2. And in F1, the Constructor Championship is worth more than the Drivers' Championship, for the teams, obviously, not for the driver. Obviously, he doesn't care. No, he cares, but as long as he wins the World Championship, he's happy, So I think Red Bull will face that dilemma, or is facing that dilemma. Yeah, we still have got a strong cars, but only one scores points all the time, So all the opposition comes closer, and they will lead into their advantage.
Well, what we're hearing with this, situation over at Red Bull is that Sergio Perez, he signed this contract for 2 years, but maybe that contract has a lot of out clauses, and there might be a few eject buttons, being potentially pushed along the way. How likely do you think it is that if, let's say, in the scenario where Checo does not improve his performance, that he's replaced mid-season?
I give it a big chance that if he doesn't improve in the races before the summer break, after the summer break, we maybe see somebody else in the car.
Who?
I mean, the obvious candidate is Liam Lawson. I mean, he's there. He's ready to go, and he did a good job last year.
Why does he cut the line? Why does he cut the line?
Why not our sweet baby angel Yuki Tsunoda?
He has got a seat, Yuki-san. Yuki-san is at RB, So I don't know. I don't know. But I just see Liam Lawson getting that seat. If Checo is not doing well the next races.
Do you think what percentage of Carlos Sainz's calculus is waiting on the guillotine to drop on Perez?
I do not think that Carlos will make it back to Red Bull. Because he was there, and I don't know when they parted ways at the time. I don't know how amicable it was. I mean, it was obviously not a bad split, but like to get him back, I see them chances low. I rather see now with and again, I haven't asked anybody, but I just see there's a lot of talks about Carlos going to Mercedes for a year or something. So I think the chances that he goes to Mercedes are bigger that he ends up in Red Bull. But by then, I understand why Carlos is not in a hurry to make a decision. All the other ones are still waiting. Williams, Alpine, who else is waiting? Audi is still waiting for him. So he just waits until somebody's not good enough.
Is there a breaking point? Is there going to be a point in time where Audi's like, screw it. Here's Ocon, K-Mag, whoever. Just we're signing them. Carlos,
but they're all... Fun. I think they all, I wouldn't say they have, I'm not saying they have to wait, but they want to wait because obviously these factory teams like Alpine and Audi, they want the best driver on the market. They know that the other ones they can still get anyway because until that domino falls, I don't think anything else will be moving.
In terms of wooing, in terms of courting Carlos Sainz, do you think Alpine has a better chance as a manufacturer with their own engine, or as a customer with the Mercedes engine, like a real good engine?
I think this is the 2 options he likes best. I mean, Alpine, it looks like it goes to a Mercedes engine in 26. It looks like. I mean, they haven't announced it, but and Yeah, that wouldn't be a bad choice for Carlos, but still no security that it works. But the risk with Audi will be higher because they never made an F1 engine. Or it was a long time ago. They made their F1 engines, but it was a long time ago.
Of course, we all remember that
yeah,
time.
we don't want to remember that now.
Yeah, do you see that foundationally changing what Alpine is? I mean, part of what you said is like what makes Alpine something that's attractive is that they're a constructor, that they're a manufacturer. Now, all of a sudden, they become a customer. I have to think that also correlates to less resources from Renault. That correlates to that. Now, all of a sudden, they're a customer team. A la Williams, McLaren, Haas, people on that side of things. Do you think that changes things in your eyes, or the Renault engine's just been so bad that it's just a net positive?
I go with the second one. I think it's not so bad, but they tried a long time and never got up to it. At some stage, you have to say enough is enough, and let's see all the options out there, and look at the mayor, the CEO of Renault. At some stage, will decide if he cannot get it done properly. There is other solutions as well, and he thinks for the company, not for himself. It says if we have got a better chance to win a championship with an engine we buy, look what McLaren is doing with the Mercedes engine. They are fighting with them, and they are in front of them in the championship. So you know what is possible. And he looks at that one and says, why I can spend a lot less money and be competitive and have got some less headaches with it.
Okay, so I do want to talk about this. Nico Hulkenberg, where did he finish? Fifth?
Sixth.
When he finished, you didn't get a little emotional when he finished sixth?
No, I'm happy for him. He's a friend, and I'm happy for him, and he did a very good job.
What's the last thing you texted Nico?
I didn't text him for a while. I saw him in Silverstone, and we just had a quick chat, and I said I called you up in the week, and I haven't done yet because I was driving. I'm the Uber driver of the family in the moment, so.
I see. I mean, he seems to be really, really thriving in a way that is pretty amazing to see, given his entire career and situation. He was really, I mean, it's an inspirational story. I mean, he was out of the sport. He was run out, a town by Daniel Ricciardo. He had those couple of years where he was a reserve for Aston Martin, and all we saw of him was like little TikTok videos that he was making with people, and we thought, wow, this guy's washed up. And then you gave him this opportunity, and now he's really, really thriving. I mean, For you to have given him that opportunity and for him to take it must.
I guess my question is what gave you the faith after Daniel Ricciardo ran him ragged at Renault and he was just sort of collecting dust at Aston Martin? What gave you the faith? Like, what made you look in his eyes and you're like, this guy can deliver?
Or has he exceeded your expectations?
Now, yes, but we go back a long time. In the beginning, when we started Haas, he was the first, my first option. I wanted to get him in the car, And in the last minute, he pulled out and stayed with, Force India at the time. We talked a lot. We had a second talk a few years later to come to Haas, and he again went to Renault instead at the time. So I always respected, because for me, he was one of these guys which always did it to himself to go to the wrong place, and sometimes, he made always a wrong decision, in his career, because I think if he would have been a little lucky or and been in a good car when he was younger, I think he could have been a world champion. I think the guy is very good, and a lot of people rate him very highly. But he's just like he seems to be trying. There's a few drivers which achieve this, to be always in the wrong car at the wrong time, basically at the right time, whatever you want to call it, And he was one of them. And don't ask me now who else that is, because I have to think about it. But there is a few. I guess Matt is already. Yeah, he's not going to do that to me, Well,
let's talk about it. We don't have to ask the question. Let's discuss who is the people that do that. It seems like Carlos Sainz always makes a good decision.
Carlos Sainz makes a good decision. Yeah, good decisions, because
good decision.
He has got a father which is helping him making this decision, and his father is the master of making good decisions. I worked with his father for a long time, and his father is very good to making decisions, and he obviously helps his son.
Lewis Hamilton.
Seems like Lewis Hamilton always makes good decisions.
Yeah, he made only 2. He went to McLaren and then to Mercedes. Easy to do, So,
but pretty good ones. And that Mercedes one at the time was a huge risk. I mean, people were like, "Can you believe that this guy is doing this? What the hell is Lewis Hamilton thinking?" What did you think when Lewis made that move?
I was quite confident because Nicky was there at the time, and I know Nicky and Nicky. I know that, and Nicky told me that they're in a good place. They want Mercedes was on a really. They wanted to have success at all cost, So there was no stops in the way. And I mean, at the time, Toto was new as a team principal, so nobody had any knowledge of how good he will be. But it gave me confidence as Nicky was there in the beginning. Ross Braun was still there. There was good people there, so that gave me the confidence.
Would you say Alonso is probably someone who's made the wrong decisions?
Absolutely,
a bunch of times?
Quite a few times. Yeah, a bunch of times. Yeah. He was always. He's another one which sometimes got a little bit too emotional about making decisions where to go.
Yeah.
It seems like, the best decision Kevin Magnussen ever made was to go with you at Haas, but because before that he had gone to McLaren before. It was like when he was very young. He talks in his book about how he was like too young, so much expectation on him that it was like impossible for him. And then
he was supposed to go to Force India. He was supposed to. Right. He was like ready to go to Force India, and then I think somebody left, or his manager like made a deal. And got Checo out, and he went into McLaren. Right. And maybe that he was too young to have... And then he went into McLaren, he got that podium, like, right away, and then so that his expectations were right on him. And then McLaren fell off a cliff. And he went to a team that was historically very good, so the expectations were really high, and the car was nowhere. So I think Kevin might be one of those guys, too.
Yeah, Kevin is one of... but I think Kevin... I wouldn't put him in the league like a Hulkenberg or Alonso. Right. I mean, he's a good driver, I've no doubt, because I employed him a few times. But it's different. But as you say, when he went into McLaren, he was, I mean, if you look at the pictures of him there, I mean, he looks like a baby there, when he was in the car. It was like a child labor almost, So, yeah.
But it seems like going into like the tiers of drivers, because, part of the reason why no team is willing to make a decision right now is because everyone wants Carlos Sainz. And if people believed that Esteban Ocon or Kevin Magnussen or whoever else is available right now and hasn't been signed up yet, Bottas, Zhou, if they believe that they were on a Carlos Sainz level, then they would just say, well, screw Carlos Sainz. I don't care how long you're waiting. I'm getting, Zhou Guan Yu, I'm getting Valtteri Bottas. That's just as good, so who cares? What are those tiers? Because, I mean, even just now you were kind of like implying, that maybe Nico, Alonso, you maybe put in a different category than you would.
Well, he puts them in a different category for luck.
What are those tiers to you?
I think I always rate drivers by their wins, but you look at Valtteri Bottas in the moment. He won a lot of races. I don't know how many he won with Mercedes.
Yeah.
But now he's completely forgotten because the car is nowhere. And,
right.
Then the motivation goes down of these drivers, and sometimes it's difficult to rekindle that motivation. And I think what Nico, going back to Nico, for him it was like, I'm out of F1. All of a sudden, he realizes that it's actually pretty cool to be in F1. And then you go back and you're energized again. So, for example, for Valtteri, if he would go away a year or two, look at Kimi. When Kimi came back in Ferrari, he was pretty good again, So, Alonso. But it sometimes happens that one. But the tiers, I mean, and Carlos, he won races this year. So obviously you can see that he is a winner. He can win races if he's in the right car. And Charles Leclerc is one of the highest rated drivers in the moment in F1. And Carlos, I don't know how the quali duel is going, but it's about, I would say, almost a 50-50 there. So everybody knows Carlos is very good, and that for everybody wants Carlos Sainz. If they can afford him, that is who you want in the moment.
So do you think that, like, Valtteri Bottas, because he's been a proven person, like, he's had times where he's been, someone maybe in that tier, but maybe there is a bit of motivation, or maybe he's just kind of, no one is even looking at him because of how bad the car is. Do you think that, who's going to take the risk, maybe a la you with Hulkenberg, on a Bottas and maybe give him a little bit of something to play for? There has been talks about him actually going to that Merc seat. again, because they know him, he knows the team, he knows X, Y, and Z. Like, I know that it seems like that seat is Kimi Antonelli's, has his name written all over it, but I mean, what do you think's happened with Bottas?
I think he will have difficulty to find a good seat again. I mean, I think Mercedes knows him very well, and they maybe know something we don't know, and they know how to get him going again. But for another team, because in the end, with that car, the last years, he has shown nothing. But maybe it's not completely his fault. But can you imagine for a driver which won races on I would say every year, a race or two, on a consistent basis, going now to fight for P17 for 2 or 3 years must be quite, that takes you down, in my opinion. At some stage you think, why do I actually do this, you know?
Mm-hmm. I mean, even Alonso, the most motivated guy in ever, it seems to be. I mean, he's been finishing behind Stroll. I mean, what do we think's going on? You think he's suffering from motivation, or do we think Stroll has unlocked something and is now one of the greatest drivers to ever live? What do we think's happening there?
No, I think with Fernando, he knows that if they don't change anything in the car, he loses motivation. I mean, to run for Fernando, how he's running, I don't think he wants to do that anymore. He has done it. He has done it numerous times in his life, and at some stage he's like, okay, I try my best, but will I go best and a little bit more? Maybe not, you know. And that,
do you think maybe after 2025? Well, he re-signed. Didn't he sign a multi-year contract that he's going to go through to 2026? I believe that's.
But for sure, there is a performance clause in there.
So he's got 2 years on this contract. Yeah, you mentioned there might be a performance clause, but seemingly Alonso will hit the performance clause. It won't be that they. It seems like it's kind of his decision, don't you think?
Yeah, exactly. That he has a performance clause on the team, but then I would say he waits for 26 to see where with the new regulation where the car is. That I think he will finish his contract. I'm pretty sure that Fernando will honor his contract to the end because he wants to be in the car in 26. Because there we don't know anything, you know. Or I don't know anything. Maybe the chief engineers know something.
Okay, you mentioned 2026, but I want to talk 2025 because we got the season. We'll see what happens this year. There's a lot of moving parts. Max has this lead, but we'll see what happens there. But then next year, it seems like it's up for grabs. It seems like 2025 is anyone's guess. Do you think that that's true, or do you think that maybe Red Bull still has the edge on the other teams?
No, I think 25, we need to wait until they go testing. And I think because it was amazing how they got so close together this year by the middle of the season. So no idea I don't think Red Bull will be this dominating team anymore going forward. I don't think so. They will be strong because they are a strong team, but they will not be dominating like last year. I don't see a chance of that one.
Given that, is there any chance that Max looks for the door?
Good question. I mean, you never say never, here. Never say never. It's like, obviously, he's going to look around now, saying, hey, if there is an option, at least he's looking into it. If he takes it or not, I don't know, because everybody wants Max, who can.
Yeah, because it seems like the difference, because it seems like Red Bull's actually not that good, and he's the difference.
Right.
Because look where Checo's finishing. I mean, it doesn't seem like the car is that great.
I think the car is pretty good. I think Checo struggles in the moment. Checo finished second how many times this year in the beginning of the season? Quite a few. I think he's just in this struggle, like Danny Rick had at McLaren with Lando. He's just struggling to keep up. It's a very similar situation. It's just like tough. Once you're down, it's difficult to get up again.
How do you motivate a guy like that? If you're in Christian Horner's seat, what are you doing? I mean, it seems like he does a lot to try to boost Checo's confidence. When we were at a Red Bull event in last year at Austin, we saw him take Checo his arm around him, and he was talking to him, and he's like, "You got my support. We're behind you 100%." But it's still that hasn't necessarily been able to make a difference. What would your tactics be to try to get Checo back to form?
I think there's no tactics. Checo needs to get back himself. Obviously you can help him, give him the confidence, but at some stage, even the driver knows that the team principal cannot support him if he's not performing. Because a driver, when he has got a race engineer he's not happy with, he's asking the team principal to change his race engineer, and the guys know that if they don't perform, they will be left they will be left out or they will need to move on. So I think Checo needs to do it himself. I mean, and I think Christian was very patient, was very helpful of trying to give him the support and confidence. He's giving him a fair chance, or the team is giving him a fair chance.
You don't think re-signing him for 2 years and then just putting a million performance clauses in there that says I could fire you if you don't hit X million sort of milestones, you don't think that was supportive enough?
Yeah, you cannot ask for more, to be honest. I mean, it's down to you then. I mean, it's down to the driver. Yeah, I give you everything I've got, but you need to perform because we cannot. Otherwise, it's too easy. You can sit anybody in the car, you know.
Right. I think it's interesting. You know, the more we talk to you, Guenther, the more I kind of see a way that you see this world, which is different a little bit than to how Matt and I see it, which is that you're like, these are jobs and we are professionals. So at the end of the day, I can, you know, oh, you want me to bend over backwards and do X and contort everything in order to make your job easier. At the end of the day, like there's a limit to how much shit other people have to do to help facilitate the job that you are hired to do.
Absolutely. And it's life. I mean, but it's general in life like this. You can help people, but you cannot do their job because then why would you have them there? And if it's clear, an F1 driver needs to perform on the racetrack. If your teammate wins consistently races and you are not finishing in the top 10, something is wrong with you, not with the team. I mean, it's pretty clear.
Seems like you're so cynical. Where's your sense of romance, Guenther?
What did you call it before? My not emotions. You know, I don't cry and all these good things.
Yes.
You know. So.
Yes.
Right.
Where's your emotions? I mean, didn't you grew up loving this sport and now you work?
I love it. I love it.
You love it. You love it. It seems like you're just a hardened husk. You're like, it's a job. You perform or you get out.
Get out.
You win or you die.
But if you guys don't perform, nobody listens to your podcast, huh?
Yes, and then I cry.
That's right. And then we both hold each other and cry.
And then Brian hugs you and you cry together, yeah.
And we cry together.
That's right.
Together, yeah. And then Jenny comes in and gets the whip
love
out.
And friendship.
Yeah.
That's right. No, I think we as people who don't exist in this world in that same way, and we were introduced to this world through Drive to Survive, through the human interest side of it. You know, we really take a special thing of like we rack our brains thinking about like where is Lando Norris emotionally? What must be going through Carlos Sainz's mind right now? Lewis, what's happening with all of them? And I guess having all the time that you were in that, your upbringing, maybe the part of the world that you're from, that there's just a different kind of like that. Those parts, it's like that's not
less love. You think there's less love in South Tyrol.
Different love.
No, I mean, Italians are not very expressive, Ryan, for sure.
But Guenther is the least Italian person I've ever
that's true.
met.
That's true. That's true. I have to say this is just something that's interesting to me, Guenther, because I grew up. I loved movies, right? I was a big fan of movies, and then you end up working in the industry, and it ends up kind of changing your initial, like what you loved about it, and it just becomes more of a job and you're more cynical. And I guess the reason I'm asking you about these things is because like I don't want to be your age, I guess, and just be completely I don't want to be more mature, right? A more adult person.
You want or you want?
I don't want to be doing this podcast.
He doesn't want to be 20 years down the line and thinking that this is all, just bullshit,
a job.
Or who cares?
I never said it's all bullshit. It's just like
I just want to be able to cry. I want to be able to cry when Lewis wins in 20 years, and you just don't.
What's interesting talking about that we've gotten onto this subject given this race, because this race was very emotional for a lot of people. This race was a tearjerker. Lewis said that he has never cried so much after a win than after this race. I think, given his whole journey, this race meant a lot to a lot of people. So that's why we're curious as to like what a race, as someone who's been in the sport for as long as you have, what a race like this does to you.
But I didn't win the race. I understand that he's emotional, but I didn't win the race. It doesn't make me emotional because
fan. You're a fan.
I like the sport. Yeah, but I don't cry about it. I'm happy for Lewis, and next time is somebody else's turn.
This is we're gonna have a tracker of how many episodes it takes till we make Guenther cry. This
exactly.
is episode 5 or 6 of Wanker Hours. At some point, Guenther, we will make you cry in a good way. In a good way.
I hope in a good way, not in a bad way. Yeah.
We know you cry before the episodes. Okay, let's go into our award. Big week, Rockstar and Wanker of the Week, brought to you by Cash App.
I think the Rockstar can only be one, no? The real Rockstar of Formula One, Lewis. I don't think we have to. I don't think we have to vote here. I think the world knows already. The world knows. The Wanker Hours world knows who is the Rockstar.
Yeah. He proved a lot of people wrong. I mean, there were a lot of doubters. Even you were saying you were maybe had some doubts on him this weekend, but he proved everyone wrong.
He proved everyone wrong. Even if he cried at the end, it's fine. He's still a Rockstar.
What do you can't think be a Rockstar and cry?
I don't think Rockstar cries, I don't know. we need to look into it.
It's 2024, Guenther. Come on, you got to be in touch with your emotions.
What's funny is that Gen Z accuses us of being like emotionally hard. Like young people listen to us and they're like, these guys don't care about emotions.
Well, we just got. We can ask you about this. We can ask you about this. We kind of were like laughing about how Lando is like too emotional. Like maybe he gets too mopey and pouty, and people were saying that we're toxic because that we're not in touch with our emotions. Because, I mean, where do you think if you're Zach Brown or Andrea Stella and you just see him just like, I mean, I guess it's good
being
not
so
to be in
hard
touch with
on
your
himself.
emotions. Be so hard on yourself, being like this, having such a fabissina punum, just really mopey. I mean, do you think that that's productive, for an athlete, for an elite athlete?
I think you could be right. It's not productive. I mean, you need to be punchy. It's like, I fucked it up, but I will get it right.
Right. Right.
Yeah, I never thought about that one. Yeah, he's a little bit. I did wrong, and I'm sorry. I shouldn't be doing that wrong. No. You need to be, I did wrong. I'm going to get it right next time.
I think there's a balance because some drivers, it's never their fault, right? It's always something else.
Exactly. That's arrogance. Never their fault. It's arrogance. And that is worse than being like this, in my opinion. Because if you're arrogant, you shouldn't be arrogant about things.
Right. Okay, so who is the
wanker? Mm-hmm. Who we call the wanker?
All the people who didn't believe in Lewis, all the people all the new fans who think Lando Norris is the future already, who are ready to put nails in Lewis's coffin, all the Gen Z fans that love Lando, love George, Guenther Steiner saying, Lewis was his least favorite of the four. That's my Wanker. That's my Wanker of the week.
No. I think Alpine. Let's talk about Alpine. I mean, one car didn't make it to the start, and the other one is still running around in bloody Silverstone, finishing the race, She was so that slow, So
sure.
Well, so who should we vote for?
It's between all the haters, Alpine.
And then I'll say whoever made the decision to put leave Oscar Piastri out that extra lap.
He's a wanker as well.
That the decision making in the pits with both of those decisions that the decision makers both. I mean, I think it was maybe Lando and then it was Oscar or whoever the McLaren decision makers messed up big time, especially with the Oscar one. That to me was insane and unforgivable.
But I think Matt's opinion about the wankers are the non-believers in Lewis.
Yeah.
Because he got a lot of critics. I think we should give it to them. They are the wankers,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so you're giving it to yourself, Guenther.
Yes.
Nice.
I'm honest, and I'm not getting emotional about it. I'm not going to cry. I'm not going to be depressed today. I'm going to sleep well. Don't worry about me, Matt. But I admit that was the wrong thing to do.
Do you get choked up during movies? You ever watch E.T. and cry?
The Lion King. I don't cry. I get emotional,
The Lion King. You cried during the Lion
that
King.
is. Yeah, that's so. That yeah.
Yes.
The Lion
cartoons.
King. Cartoons.
The Lion King. Did you cry during Up?
No, I didn't cry. I get emotional.
You got emotional.
Yeah, I get emotional.
Have you ever seen the movie Up, Guenther? Up?
No. Yeah, I'm not a movie guy like you guys. You know.
I think you should watch Up with. I think you should watch Up with the family. And I don't expect you to cry, but maybe you'll get a little.
Well, what is it about? Sorry about my ignorance.
It's a cartoon about an old man and a dog who go on a journey.
Okay.
Let's just say that.
Leave it at that.
I think you like it. I think you might get emotional.
I will ask Greta. She will know.
You never have to watch like a kids movie with your daughter. You've never been stuck watching.
What was it called? I watched one a few years ago, the last time with her, because she doesn't want to watch movies with me, you know. Because if they're too boring, I fall asleep and then I start to snore, you know. So she rather watches it on her own.
I see.
Back to the Lewis doubters.
Yeah.
And this is the last thing we're going to talk about with your emotions on this episode because we were hammering you.
And enough of my emotions, you know.
Wait, one more thing, though. One more thing.
Yeah, one more. Last one.
When we see the narrative of that, right? Of that Lewis, you know, he's over 300 races, right? That Lewis he's the oldest driver and with the most amount of races under his belt to ever win a race. That he proved people wrong. That after, you know, he was out and people thought he's done. That he's this yesterday meant say no, I'm not fucking done yet. And I would imagine as for me as someone who I think at times I've counted myself out. And maybe other people counted me out. And, you know, Guenther, I don't know if this at all resonates with you. You know, there's that you're maybe you're in a part of your time where maybe there are people saying like, well, what's Guenther got left in the tank? Does there not some inspiration and some emotion as to like Lewis can fucking still do it? And I'm gonna win every championship on every team in Formula One. Do you feel at all?
Just calm down.
Just
don't get emotional, you know. So.
Do you feel any of that?
No. I don't put it to me. No, I don't. I don't do that to me. But can you imagine what will top this if Lewis goes to Ferrari and wins races and maybe a championship? Can you imagine the emotions there? Then
would you get emotional then? Would you get emotional then?
All three, we have to get emotional together then. You know,
we will all. If Lewis wins a championship with Ferrari, we'll all hold each other and cry.
Exactly.
Cry. Okay, let's get into our fan questions. Bankas, this episode is brought to you by our amazing partners at Cash App. Not only does Cash App sponsor our favorite perfectly branded Formula One team, but they also make it easier for you to save money so you can do the things you love, like going to an F1 race, which is something that we did in Silverstone thanks to Cash App. Listen, to be honest, we thought that Cash App was just a way to send people money, but it's also a faster and simpler way to bank. You can start saving with as little as $1 with no hidden fees, no minimum balance requirements, and no account fees. And we all know that overdraft fees make no sense. Why are you charging someone if they don't have any money? You're going to penalize Haas? What's wrong with you? Plus, if you deposit $300 or more in paychecks, you get up to $50 in free overdraft coverage. It pays to get paid on Cash App. So go download Cash App today. All right, now back to the show. Let's see which fan questions we want to hit. Okay, this is from Nash Odin. Full grid battle royale. Fists only. Who wins? Top three.
Drivers.
Lewis, he seems to be pretty. Yeah, he can throw a punch. I think.
Okay.
Max, I think Max is pretty feisty, and Ocon, he looks nasty. Yeah, he looks nasty. You know.
What do you think their styles are?
He gave me a nasty look in the paddock. I was like, I think he's heard some of the things I said about him, honestly.
What do you think, like Ocon? You think some of them are fighting clean, fighting dirty?
No,
you know,
I mean, it's all about fighting dirty, you know.
Yes. Okay, there we go.
A proper fight is about fighting dirty, you know.
This is from Darren's Detail. What's your number one regret in F1?
Oh, my number one regret in F1. I mean, the regret is never. I've been on the podium once with Jaguar in the early 2000s, but never won a race. That's a big regret for me. Never have done it. But I don't know how to fix it now. So I'm not in F1 anymore.
We start the Vanka Hours F1 team. And
it's a good idea.
We manufacture our own engines, and I drive for the team.
We got the chief engineer.
And exactly.
I build it.
Yeah.
and we make it happen.
If it goes anything
and we got
like
Cash App as a sponsor already.
Yeah.
Because you guys are good. Cash App is the sponsor,
There we go.
There we go.
Yeah, we're
Cash App. Just send us the money. We are ready.
Yeah.
Cash App us the money. Come on.
That's right.
It's right there.
Cash App us the money. Exactly. I think that just about does it for our fan questions. Okay. The next race is Hungary. Who you think's got the edge? I know it seems like a toss-up, but if you had to make a decision about who you think is going to come out strong in Hungary, who do you think it is?
McLaren.
Okay.
Slow course, high heat.
It's hot in Hungary. Normally it's hot in Hungary. Normally, I mean, obviously there could be, but normally it's very hot, and that I think the McLaren is good on that stuff.
So that'll be bad for Mercedes, right? Because what we've gathered is that Mercedes is better in the cooler tracks.
Yeah, and high-speed corners, it looks like, and Hungary is not high-speed.
Okay.
And as a team principal, like, what keeps you up at night about this track? What are you looking out for? What are your top worries?
Normally in Hungary, it is the heat. It is the heat. It can be an issue. It's one of the hottest races, if not the hottest one after. It can be the hottest one after Mexico. I mean, Mexico is not the hottest, but the altitude gives it.
But okay, you think McLaren? It seems like we've had a few races now where McLaren's had the edge. Yeah,
it was almost there, but wasn't there. Exactly. Yeah, it was almost there, but not there. So that's where I think it will come.
Okay, you think that era's done, that they're actually going to finally put together the full week and they're going to bring it home.
Bring it home.
In Hungary. You think Lando or Piastri?
Lando.
Okay.
When do you think Oscar Piastri? Because he seems like, it seems like guys like Carlos Sainz, they have the good head on their shoulders. Oscar, but not maybe the raw pace of a Max Verstappen. Lando Norris, maybe he gets a little more frazzled. But Oscar Piastri, I mean, he seems like a guy that if he could just manage his tires and maybe qualify more consistently and keep his nose clean, on those first turns and not stop crashing with Carlos Sainz, I mean, he could be a really formidable opponent.
Yeah, he's very good, and he will get there. He still needs to make the next step, but he's on the right track. He will get there. I don't know if he gets there this year. I mean, he will get closer and closer, but next year for sure he will be with there with Lando Norris.
And then what do?
They fight, and then we enjoy it.
Yes, because we're a bunch of Vankas.
Yes.
Okay, Vankas, that just about does it for us. We love you. Until next time, goodbye, Vankas.
Goodbye, Vankas.
Goodbye, Wankers.